Thank you very much for the intro. Thank you for having me as well. My name is McQueen, and I'm a recent qualifier from the DevOps cohort at Qualyfi. And I've been studying and working with Qualyfi for the last few months, and I just got into placement at a company called Juma back in Birmingham. And I've been offered the chance to talk to you about my journey into the cloud from where I started off at, and I'd like to take it back to the beginning as well. I did take some pictures along the way of my journey with Qualyfi, so you might see them in the slides as well. So, this is where I worked at before Qualyfi. It's Southern City College. It's a big chain of colleges in Birmingham. And I finished sixth form in 2022, actually. I did computer science, physics, and maths, and I didn't go to uni. I didn't feel like it was right for me. And so I ended up going to a summer job at CCB. I was doing paper shuffling, data, MIS operations for exams, and then I went into a full-time reception job. Been there for about 8 months or so, about May 2023, and I thought this isn't really right for me. I've always wanted to do computers and tech work ever since I was younger. And I thought, let me take a look, let me see what I can do to break into the industry. So
it's alright. The door opened, it's all good.
So my best friend Aaron, he found this course for me actually. It was a paid one online, Amazon Web Services, and it seemed like a good starting point as someone who hadn't had any experience like I did. It did have some, it was basically a 9 to 5 on the weekends, doing study on your own and practice exams, and it felt kind of hard to balance my work life and studying as well and personal. There wasn't that much help and guidance with it. However, I did work through it. There wasn't much business, people, skills involved, but I got the certification, I got the AWS Cloud Practitioner. And I thought, out of curiosity, I'm the guy now, I got the exam, I got the cert. Let me take a look and see what's out there. But it's very well known that you need a job to get experience, and to get experience you need a job in the first place, so it's a very hard cycle to break into. And I had some reservations about where and how I'd start, where my starting point would be, how to get into it. And I was looking at some jobs and I found Qualyfi on there. I knew there was some missing building blocks that I needed to put in to get to the position where I need to be to start out. And I saw it had some certifications as well. I wasn't sure if I qualified for it. And I took a look through the description. There was an accelerator, there was a 2-year placement as well, and there wasn't an expectation of experience or degrees or qualifications. And so I thought I'd take the opportunity while I can. I'll apply for it, I'll interview, and I'll do everything that I can to show how much I want this job, because I need to propel myself into the industry. And so with that, I left reception and I started working for Qualyfi. When I started out, I wasn't sure if I could keep up with the rest. I thought, there's a lot of stuff to do. There was a very extensive, detailed, minute-by-minute workbook that was set up for us. But working through it, getting through it day by day, I managed to pass my AZ 900, and I started to grasp some of the core concepts and services in the cloud. And after that, I moved swiftly onto the AZ 104. Cover some basic topics, a bit more in detail, Entra ID, governance, networking, and storage and compute services, as well as databases. We did many live labs, so I got a lot of hands-on experience. It was useful to be able to create and administrate services as well. We had lots of help and support along the way from our ever-knowledgeable tutor Rupert. He was assisting with some technical questions and industry questions, having been in it for a long time. We had daily catch-up calls for exam prep and some help, and a bit about the weather in Mexico as well. After many late-night revisions, many practice papers, I passed my AZ 104 as well, so I got down there well. During Qualyfi, we were given a brief look at where we would end up at the end of the accelerator. And I saw the final project and I thought, how on earth am I meant to do that by the end of this time? And then I finally got through it. I got my first and my second exam, I did a bit more studying, and I looked at it again when I got to it, and I thought, how on earth am I meant to do that still? We were given a briefing of the task. We were told it's a hub and spoke landing zone deployed in Azure using the infrastructure as code language called Bicep. And we use Azure PowerShell as well, completely automated. It's fully independent, no code sharing, just left to research and Google it yourself as well. I have a very basic Python from back in secondary school, so there wasn't much going into it myself, but I managed to work through it and get to the point where I could start this project. Starting off, we had all the modules separated for reusability. We had loads of virtual networks, we had a core, 2 spokes, and a hub. And all of them were peered to the hub as well, with default NSGs, network security groups linked to the subnets. Starting in the core, we had a Windows Data Center virtual machine with static private IP, and it would have Azure Disk Encryption on the OS and data disk using BitLocker, and the keys were stored in a key vault in its own dedicated subnet for private endpoint. Moving on to the spokes as well. They were functionally identical, so I coded them as one module for best practice and repeatability, and I passed different parameters according to which spoke I was using. It was just a simple web app with an app service plan and a private endpoint later used by the app gateway in the hub. There was an empty SQL database as well as a proof of concept that would order to the storage account, both using private endpoints. Now in the hub, there was a VPN gateway just as a proof of concept again for theoretical hybrid scenarios. And there was the app gateway with a public IP, and that was attached to the web apps using them as back-end pools for load balancing. There was also a firewall, which all of the core and spoke traffic went through using user-defined routes, and a bastion for secure connectivity to the virtual machine. So there was a recovery services vault and a virtual machine backup, and some extensions as well as a proof of concept. There's also logging capabilities such as virtual machine and app insights, firewall logs, and a log analytics workspace. Luckily you can't see my awful handwriting there, but that was just all of the notes that I made whilst scrambling through this project, trying to get everything down. And every little hint and detail and thing I would need to think about later, I put them down and I'd stuck them in my wardrobe. So all of this led to me passing my accelerator, and I've probably put that on my LinkedIn for everyone to look at, type for MCQ. It's nice to see how far I've come from when I started off, back in reception even. Being able to get to this level of Azure in this amount of time, and having projects and certifications to show for it as well, and being able to complete these projects in only a handful of months. And as well as the technical infrastructure side of it, development, there was also some soft skills that went into it as well. We had many training days, in person and virtual, don't mind the banana in the back. We had many topics such as timekeeping, capturing requirements, business relationships, and guiding principles of consulting. And it was always really informative and interesting to be in the training, meeting everyone else on the cohort and the team at Qualyfi. And it was very friendly talks and knowledgeable discussions with industry professionals. And so, DevOps conference. We had a bit of talk on DevOps as well as some of the training, mainly on stuff like the Agile framework, quality assurance, application and software development life cycles, working on projects as well. After the accelerator, completing that, we were assigned a new project using AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. It was a multi-container Redis voting app running on it, and our daily 1-hour calls with Rupert the tutor became 30-minute weekly catch-ups with him playing the role as a customer to help along. We had no guidance, no diagram like before, no assistance in any way, and we also got told we have to create our own diagram from scratch and give a presentation about it as well, which was fun. So here's the voting app. The correct answer is cats, by the way. There were Linux node pools, which were backends to an app gateway as seen in the previous slides. The containers were pooled and composed from GitHub to the Azure Container Registry linked to the cluster. We use Azure CNI networking as opposed to KubeNet, where each pod gets its own IP address from the subnet. All outgoing internet traffic went for a NAT gateway, a network address translation, And we had a private cluster with SSH features connecting to the Bastion. And we used Entra ID or Azure Active Directory for role-based access control. We were tasked with mounting the Key Vault secret to the backend pool using container storage interface driver. And we created our own manifest YAML file, using components from other files as well, and putting them into one. I used the environment substitute function to be able to substitute all the variables in using my bash command. And there was also node pool auto-scaling and horizontal pod auto-scaling as well. We used Azure load testing for pushing artificial demand to make sure it will scale in and out properly. And similar to the last project, there was various monitoring capabilities going to the log analytics workspace. And we also enabled Prometheus and Grafana as a proof of concept for some metric gathering and visualization tools. And here was the diagram that I made myself for the presentation. I presented it to the tutor with his customer hat on, and he supposedly didn't know anything about Azure or the cloud or consulting or anything like that. And after I gave him my whole speech about how this works and what it does, his customer hat magically went off and he went line by line through my code to tell me, why did you do that? What does this mean? Why did you call it these certain things? And originally, back a long time ago, talking at such a high level was hard for me to do, being able to explain concepts as if someone didn't understand it. But working through this project and the previous and the training helped me to be able to develop that skill even more. And after coming out of the project as a stronger, wiser man, my next challenge was to tackle the AZ305, the Solutions Architect Expert. And that was mainly to learn about learning best practice and designing robust solutions. We learned a lot about database services, migration tools, various aspects of a well-architected framework. And it's probably the hardest exam. Midway through, I had to go into the bathroom just to take a break and just breathe. I had to pause and pray that I made it through. And in the end, I felt a wave of relief as I passed it on my first attempt. I know that I got 3 levels of Azure certifications under my belt up until now, from fundamentals all the way up until expert. I got 2 hefty projects with a lot of challenges faced and experience gained. We had some placement preparation, we had some mock interviews with some great feedback on improving how we talk and the answers and questions to prepare for in-interviews from an employer's perspective. And we also had calls with a whole cohort just talking about some cloud concepts and what we think about them and how we'd answer those questions on our understanding already, which was quite interesting. And there's a quote I heard somewhere. I didn't play the hand I was dealt, but changed my cards. I often think to myself, back before Qualyfi, if it had not been for Qualyfi being open-minded and me pushing myself to find this opportunity and work hard for it, I'd still be shuffling papers and writing forgotten ID cards for students back in the college. And being able to progress this much technically, but also professionally, I think it's quite amazing to see how much growth there is and how much people can do in that amount of time. And the concepts and tasks that we have done in Azure used to be a massive scary beast back when I started out, and now I can do them with ease. And now I've landed in placement. I started working at a consultancy in Birmingham called Juma, and I've been starting on projects already and helping them out, going into different meetings and talking about and learning some professional skills and being able to be in that sort of environment. And that's been my story so far, and there's a lot more to come, as you will see on my LinkedIn if you follow it, please. Thank you.
Well done. So, I successfully scared everyone off with the slide deck. That quote, Kanye West.
Oh.
I had to Google that, I didn't know. Does anyone have a question for Tyler? Bearing in mind what I said about questions earlier. Of course not. Oh, a couple of brave people. Yes?
How long did it take, because I understand you started this course, and how long did it take you from start to the end?
From the start of Qualyfi, that started, and I started from the start of Qualyfi to finishing the accelerator. That was about 2 months, doing the first project and the first 2 exams. And it was about another 2 months or so for me to complete the third 305 exam, solutions, architect, and the second project as well.
So it's 4 months?
4 months total, yeah.
Cool, there's a question back there.
I was also going to ask how long it take for you to do all this, but I mean, I just have to say, I think it's very impressive, like learning all of these things in such a short amount of time, like, and like, the quality of the things that you were showing, I think that's just really positive stuff. Like, it's really good, so props for that.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Go on then, Luke. Quick one.
What was the hardest technology for you to pick up?
Hardest probably Azure Kubernetes service. That was just starting out, trying to understand all the concepts of how that works, and container orchestration was definitely weird. But I managed to get through it. So.
Cool. Was there another question? Yeah, no, I imagined it. Go on then, you sir.
Yes, so you have completed the Azure also and the AWS also. What about the GCP?
Come on! I personally, as well as probably most people in the room, have not really looked into GCP.
I like the people that I am asking.
It's fine.
There goes your future Google career.
Yeah, I've only done one AWS term. I would be open-minded to doing some more as well, but I've mainly been focusing on Azure so far.
I think you saved that one. Yes, sir.
I'm going to draw my question from the last statement. Your first certification was AWS, right?
Yes.
Then you switched to Azure.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, why don't you continue with AWS? Why did you switch to Azure?
It was mainly what was available at the time. AWS was the one that I found at first, and then when I came across the opportunity for Qualyfi, Azure was used. And although I don't have much experience with AWS, it seems like I prefer how Azure works and the naming scheme and how it functions and ease of use. That's my preference as well. But I do think it would be useful for me to learn some AWS as well, just for flexibility. So that's something I'll still be looking into.
Excellent. Any more? Go on, Tim.
Would you recommend this sort of route to others that are looking to get into DevOps?
Definitely, yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I think naturally I wouldn't be here where I am now if it wasn't for this route, but I also just think it provides an amazing opportunity. I know that the last talk we did was about social mobility and bringing that to the scene, and I think that it's a great opportunity in being able to bring DevOps and Azure to more people.
So there were some excellent questions, but do you know what was even more excellent? Mr. Tyler.